Hi everybody, welcome back to Commonwealth Flipper. We are already in the cabin today. I don't have a massive amount of sales, which is going to be part of the topic today, but it's not terrible, I suppose. So today, this video, I got to be honest with you, it might ruffle a few feathers today, and that's okay. I don't mind ruffling a few feathers every now and again, and I'd love to get your feedback. We're going to get into a topic I often talk about, but don't quite talk about like this today. I was inspired by a few different things that I saw within hours of each other. And I'm going to talk about that, and we're going to look at some sales as well. And at the end of the video, we're going to let the topic, which is complaining, kind of lead us into another discussion I've been wanting to have for quite a while, but it might not interest everybody. I'm going to put it at the end of the video. Let's go take a look. Usually in the morning, I get quite a bit of work done, all kinds of different stuff, and there's kind of a systematic approach to it. And then I'll check Instagram messages, I'll check emails, I'll go through eBay comments. My ladder's in the way right here. I'm gonna see if I can sneak around it. And then when I start the list, I usually turn on a podcast or somebody's YouTube channel. This is getting tight right here. This is the first item that sold right here. This one actually I put in my club head cover bin because I don't have that many club head covers, and these are kind of bigger hats. I don't want to crush them. You'd be surprised, some of the Disney hats like this actually go for decent money. Great condition on this one, foam, Disney parks, all that. That one sold for $24.95, believe it or not, plus shipping. So I guess it all started when I woke up this morning, and yesterday was a slow day of sales, and we went from having, I think in a 2-day period, we had, I want to say $1,600 in sales. And I was like, wow. And that's cool. It's like you're putting in the hard work and you get that reward. And then the 2 days following, I think were $115, and then woke up to like one sale or something. I'm like, ooh, this is terrible. And I started thinking to myself, you know, all right, well, it's time to get back to work and whatever. And then all of the things, the messages I was getting, the particular podcast I was watching was dealing with the same thing. Even some Instagram feeds, you know, I follow different people. I'm going to mention those whenever it's a slow day of sales. You guys got to watch out. I tell stories and do quotes and all that. So we'll mix all that in. And it kind of inspired me to do this video right here, because I think there's a lot of people out there who need to hear it, including myself from time to time, because we all complain. We all complain about stuff. But there's this little piece that makes a big difference between people who are complainers and get stuck and people that have complaints and do something else that propels them to success. Turner just came in to ask if he could bounce the basketball and brought a couple of... Look at you. I know you're like trained to look sad, so I give you treats. I know. Have two of the exact same lunchboxes in totally different conditions here. This one has the thermos with it, and that one sold for $34.95 plus shipping. Because it's in good condition, lunchboxes are... Condition is everything on most of them, so big price swings depending on condition for sure. At any rate, I was watching... There's all kinds of stuff. I'll get to all of it, but the thing that got me saying, you know what, I'm going to do this video... I watched the Reseller Locker Rooms podcast while I was listing this morning, and Ben had mentioned me in there, and he was talking about, let's see, what was the title of that video? It was, Who's Tired of Stressing Out Stressing Out About Sales and Reselling? Pick a Path. And it was interesting because, you know, that a lot of this stuff is real, right? When you're dependent on something for an income, it just naturally stresses you out. It's a choice to not be stressed out about it. It's a choice to not point fingers, to not point blame, to not, you know, rip eBay or the postal service or whatever. It is a choice. I think it's a choice worth making for most folks. But at the same time, look, there's a lot of amazing things that start with a complaint. I'm not saying there's not some value in complaining about something, an injustice or something that could be better. It's, what do you do with that? Do you dwell on that and keep finding more? I almost respect people who quit eBay more than people who stay in it and just complain every single day about it. And this is what I mean. It'll ruffle some feathers. I get that. I'll probably lose subscribers. That's okay. But, you know, birds of a feather flock together. And that's not what I want this show to be about. I want this show to be about discovering new opportunities, about continuing to just trudge through and to have discipline on the opportunities that are already there for us, and to look on the bright side, not to be Pollyanna here, and not to always, you know, think optimistically about everything, but to do a little bit of a different path. At first I told Turner out there, he's got a buddy over here just to hold off on the basketball for a little bit. And he's like, okay, we'll wait till it's all done. Sold this Share a Cozy Moment mug, and now I see him out there playing basketball without dribbling. Now, that's kind of what I'm talking about here. You can complain about it and sulk about it, or you could figure a different path forward, and he certainly did. Share a Cozy Moment Care Bears mug. I love the Care Bears, you know that. And this is American Greetings, made in Japan, so it is definitely a vintage one. This one sold for $14.20 plus shipping. I'm looking out the window at them fake dribbling. I kind of feel bad, but I enjoy it. All right, here we go. The pessimist. I won't attribute all these quotes. My apologies. I don't have them all. William Ward. I love quotes. The pessimist complains about the wind. The optimist expects it to change, and the realist adjusts the sails. And so there are more than one option to things that you don't like. And I think back when I was a teacher, and one of the older teachers that was really good, well respected by the students, by the faculty, by everybody. And I think I went early on and ate lunch in one of the faculty rooms, and that person came to me and said, "Don't eat lunch in there." And I'm like, well, that seems weird. It's like, that's the complainers faculty room. You don't want to be in there. You'll never be a good teacher if you sit in there.
I got them separated.
Holy moly.
Tops, hats, purses, commons.
Ready to roll,
They're
y'all.
the t-shirts.
Divvy.com. Show's coming soon. All right, I sold this Fenton Bell over here, which I know nothing about, except for I sold it for more than I bought it for, so that's good. And that sold for $13.96 plus shipping. It was 30% off. One of these two dogs is afraid of Turner's buddy out here. I'll let you guess which one it is. So that was $13.96 plus shipping. That was after the 30% off, by the way. It's not, I always say the number that it actually sold for, in case anybody's wondering. Now they found a giant, real-size basketball that's Nerf so they can dribble it. This fits this conversation so well. You can complain, you can sulk, or you could find different alternatives. And going back to an original point here that I made, look, I'm not saying I have complaints. You've heard me complain about stuff before, but usually there's an action accompanied with it. And I'm going to get to the big one that I had that I actually kind of went out on a ledge and did. And I don't know that people see it that way, but we'll talk about that at the end of the video. But, you know, I'm a history guy. I taught history for years. And, you know, I realized there are huge events. You could go back to the Magna Carta, which was born out of complaints. But it was accompanied by action. And same thing, our country was born out of a list of complaints. And the redress of grievances and the petition and all those things. But they're always accompanied by action when you see major change. And the other things, you know, I love the Salt March to me, all the way up into the Quit India movement and Gandhi in India. That was just amazing, and that inspired more change. It was complaints accompanied by action. And you could argue the Civil Rights Movement, the exact same thing here in the United States. So much starts with a complaint, but it doesn't sit there and dwell on it, and it doesn't surround itself with more complaints. There has to be a step of action. Pancho coming in to join his scaredy dog brother. This one right here, this is kind of cool. I did not pick this. This, I think, came from Lady Arbitrage, I think. And it was at the 127, and they just didn't have enough room in their car, and so I bought a bunch of stuff off of them. This one here, believe it or not, y'all, sometimes these old trash cans can do well. I might be wrong where I got it, but I don't remember picking it, so there you go. $45 for that one, plus shipping. It might be a little too wide. Well, I don't know. It might fit in those boxes that I have for those paper rolls. We'll have to see. The biggest problem with complaining is what I have talked about before, is you're sacrificing your own ability and your own autonomy. The only thing I can't attribute this quote, by the way. The only thing complaining does is convince other people that you are not in control. I think that's really true. And, you know, there is a certain segment of the reselling world, of the whole world in general, that love to complain. They want to be surrounded. It makes them feel better to be surrounded because they don't want to point the fingers at themselves. And I'm not saying everything is within our control. It's not. Clearly it's not. Especially when you're selling on eBay's platform, a lot of things you just simply can't control. But that doesn't mean you give up the things that you can control. This is an awesome keyboard. If you ever see the SK1 with a box, without a box, pick it up. This is sold as is for parts. And it's still sold for $60 plus shipping very quickly. Does not have the little power cord with it either. So that's probably undersold for an as is for parts with the box. Pretty good sale. Here's another one right here. You may not be able to control someone's negative behavior, but you can control how long you participate in it. And I truly believe this. I used to see it in my classroom. I used to see it on my baseball team. The people that wanted to point fingers, blame, complain, do all those things, they stuck together like glue. And if you had more of those people than you had of the other type of people, you were in trouble. We were in trouble as a team. No matter how talented we were, I knew we were in trouble. And the years sometimes with less talent, but the right mindset, we would go much farther. The last year I coached, we went way farther even than I thought we would go. We didn't have the tools. We didn't have the pieces, but we had the right people, the right mentality. This is shaping up to not be the most fun shipping day of all time, but not a bad little, look, they popped, right? We were having that bad day and all of a sudden we got stuff to pop. And our sales have gone up over, in a 2-day period, up over $600 and something here. Not just here, but some of the other stuff I'm going to pick. This one I paid $30 for. And I bought it at an estate sale. And there'll be people who watch that video and are like, what are you doing paying $30? It had this remote with it. And of course I add these two things to it. So paid $30. It sold for $100 after it's tested. $100 plus shipping. I'm going to make over $50 profit on that item right there. And the entire process of, buying, testing, pictures, listing, shipping is going to be under half an hour on that. Well worth it to me. I mean, that's $100 an hour, for goodness sake. So when you're confronted with something that you want to complain about, or you're surrounded by people with constant complaints, you've got a couple choices. And one choice is to make a corrective move on your own if you can. That's always the best choice, the easiest choice. And another one is to seek out people who can actually affect change. And I used to do that teaching. And a lot of times, unfortunately, it wasn't the administration, or they weren't willing to, and they could. And then there's somebody else, and you got to go talk to them. And when it gets to the point where you can't do anything about it personally, you've got other choices. You can organize with other people to affect change, or you can remove yourself from the situation entirely and just divorce yourself from it. And so there's all kinds of different options that you can take. So I did all these things in the teaching world. I've done these things in the eBay world. I've actually been able to, I don't know if I've been able to affect change a ton or not, but I've been able to voice it to the right people, thank goodness. Thanks to y'all, by the way. And I like to think there's been a few things that I've affected. Maybe that's pie in the sky. Maybe that's my ego. I'm not quite sure. But I feel like that. I don't know if it's right, but I feel like it. So happiness comes when we stop complaining about the troubles we have and offer thanks for all the troubles we don't have. And that was often the tack that I took as a teacher. You got to look on the bright side of life, right? And I would do that. I'm like, man, I get 3 months off a year, for goodness sake. Yeah, I got to deal with this. I wish I could do this, and they're not allowing me to do this. And I know this works, but sometimes you just don't have control. And so you've got to look at the positive things. I think a lot of eBay sellers miss that we have an incredible amount of opportunity, especially if you're, up in Canada or something and you're looking down at us whining and complaining down here, and certain other places that it's very, very difficult and the hurdles are there. We got a lot to be grateful for here. How could you be afraid of a little boy? He's just a little boy like Turner. This will go from a $100 sale to a $7 sale. And, oh well, 30% off. So it was a $10 listing, Meet Sun sunglasses. It was $1 buy somewhere. I saw a couple comps for 10. I'm like, I guess, whatever. Sold for $7 plus shipping. Reminds me of a story Gandhi used to tell. He used to say, I used to complain that I had no shoes until I met the man who had no feet. Not gonna lie, that was a deep dig in there for a pair of jeans that only sold for $11 and 16 cents on 30% off. So they have been in there. They were at the bottom. They've been in there a long, long time. Buffalo jeans, I think they're women's, I'm not sure. But they finally sold, and I only paid $1, so we're still making money. Here's a short and sweet one right here. What you're not changing, you're choosing. I like that one. I've used that quite a bit. So I mean, listen, like I said before, there's always reasons to complain. There's always legitimate reasons to complain. I could give you a laundry list of things I do complain about. But if you're choosing to always be in that camp, to always dwell on it, it's not going to propel you forward. And sometimes, you know, depending on your situation, you may not be the agent of change, but you certainly can be somewhat of an agent of change in your own little world, in your own business. Sold another one of these, y'all. DVD VCR combo. This one does not have a remote. It is not a Sony, but it's still sold for 80 bucks, y'all. $79.95 plus shipping. Benjamin Franklin said a good example is the best sermon. And so I'm not going to say, you're never going to hear me complain on here. That's ridiculous. You'll hear me complain. But it's not going to be the focus of this channel. It never will be. No matter how bad eBay gets, it never will be. That's a big statement for somebody that does an eBay channel. It's always going to be about solutions and not just Pollyanna positivity. We'll address the issues like we always do. But it's hopefully always going to be accompanied by some kind of a direction or a, you know, maybe sometimes when I don't have it, I appreciate so many of you guys out there for giving me that direction and thoughts on it. So I appreciate that. And I don't know, that's, you know, it's not going to be every video. It might be every once in a while. And it certainly shows in my titles and my thumbnails sometimes. But hopefully that's not what this channel is to you guys, and I appreciate you for watching it. I've got to go out to the other cabin to pull the next item. There's actually a couple in this lot that I got to pull from out there, but this is, I'm assuming this is a viewer because there's multiples on this one. Carol, I just want to say thank you to you. It may not be because we're talking all Disney stuff, but I have a pretty good suspicion that this is definitely a viewer, and I saw no other messages today, so I had to thank somebody. So Carol, you're the one. Hey, gotta grab a couple in here. We'll head to the other shed and I'll show them to you. All right, they went. I stopped filming for a little while, do a few little bits of business. They grabbed the real ball. These are the two that sold. This one's made Japan. I don't know about this one. So it's got some age on it, and that one's, of course, Mickey from The Wizard in Fantasia. $14.95 plus shipping. This little trinket box, $14.95 as well plus shipping. All right, I have a complaint. Somebody of, little irony, of the female persuasion here moved my Christmas ornaments around. They used to be in a drawer in there, but when we were moving stuff around in there for when we had that flood in there, some of the Christmas ornaments I see that got put over here. I don't think we have very many left, like very, very few. And I don't know where they put them. Nobody's here, so I'll have to wait. But that's not a complaint. Well, maybe it is a little bit. Any rate, here we go. When you complain all the time, you make yourself a victim. Leave the situation, change the situation, or accept the situation. All else is madness. Y'all, Mickey and Minnie plush are not easy to sell. I hope they're right here somewhere. Y'all see Mickey and Minnie anywhere? There they are, right there. Mickey and Minnie plush. So selling them together is a little easier. And if you buy them super cheap, you'll still be okay. These sold for $15 together, plus shipping. The wind is really blowing right now. Looks like a storm is coming in. Complainers change their complaints, but they never reduce the amount of time that they spend complaining. It's a productivity piece of this too. Sold another Disney hat today. Not the goofy one we had earlier, but this is Where Dreams Come True, Walt Disney World. Look, they have light up ears. Oop. A little felt hat. They light up. Can you see them lighting up? I think you can. And that one does too, but you gotta turn it on. $17.95 plus shipping. Here's one. I think some people enjoy complaining almost as much as they enjoy doing nothing about it. I like that. All right, y'all. Turner's got some Commonwealth comedy. I got to show them this ball. Look at this. This is a soundless ball. They can dribble it and it doesn't make noise. I like it. So you got a basketball joke since it's March Madness and Turner's obsessed. All right, what do you got?
Why did the basketball court get wet?
Why did the basketball court get wet? I don't know.
Because the players kept dribbling on it.
Thank you, buddy.
Bye.
Here's one from Zig Ziglar. Be grateful for what you have and stop complaining. It bores everybody, does you no good, and doesn't solve any problems. This was the first post I saw this morning, and this is from Gary Vee, who, you know, some people love him, some people hate him, but I still think it's an interesting one, and it got me down this path today. It just kept kind of pointing me down this video here. So, a lack of complaining is such a strength. Of course, communicating and sharing concerns, etc. is important. But complaining and lack of accountability have become a big problem, and at this point, this is a shout out to those who don't do the lazy thing and complain and blame. If you're not complaining, I have no advice for you. Okay. I like that.
We got the puppies. Hi guys, it's Reagan, and I'm going to be saying thank you to Eric for getting the most beautiful Commonwealth picker bag ever. So thank you so much, Eric. Bye, and don't forget to get your stickers at CommonwealthPicker.com.
Had one more sale come across, and I figured I'd ship it out today. It's the Game Shark 2.1 cartridge right there, and that one sold for just under $14 plus shipping. I'm out of sales for the day. Over $600 in the end, and that's more than one day. It's 2 days and a couple of hours, actually. And let's see, this one's from Dale Carnegie. He says, any fool can criticize, condemn, and complain, and most fools do. But it takes character and self-control to be understanding and forgiving. And I think that is definitely, I love that one. That was probably my favorite one. All right, and this is the part of the video, I like this. I did this on the last video. I'm gonna do this here too, where I wanted to kind of make an example of what I'm talking about. I love reselling so much. I didn't want to be bound to one platform, but I also don't want to spread myself over platforms that aren't really effective. And so I kind of create escape hatches in case I ever need one. It's part of the reason we started Dibbed It. And man, that wind is blowing out there. Something just blew over. At any rate, I've lost my train of thought here. We got to get back on track. I think what I'm trying to say here is, and I'm not saying everybody should go start a marketplace or do whatever, but you know, there's always something we can do to either improve what we're doing or to maybe even shift a little bit. And this is not an advocate. I'm not advocating, you know, go start live selling if you're not. But here's the reality. If everything was wonderful for all the sellers who were selling on eBay all the time, then some of these other platforms wouldn't even exist. So sometimes things start from the negative things that occur when something is taken for granted. Now, I'm not talking about by sellers. And so, you know, I just decided to go this direction with our own platform, Dibbed.com, and now all its subsidiaries and stuff. And I started to think, and I said this at the get-go, especially if you watch the Trash Cash podcast, I said, do we really want to become the entity that everybody complains about? Not everybody, obviously. We don't all complain. But at some point, this is growing. There's success. It's not always successful. There's ups and downs over there. There's no doubt about it, for me and for other sellers. But at some point, if it continues to grow, then we become the target of the complainers. And that's just part, you know, I think, what would I rather have? Would I rather be bound to one site, to one way of reselling, and complain about it when things don't go right? Or would I rather be the target of the complaints and the criticism? Well, I don't do well with criticism, if you've watched me long enough. But I still made the decision that I was going to go that direction. And I don't know, maybe it's pie in the sky. Maybe I'm crazy. But I'm extremely excited about how it's gone so far. But I'm not blind to the fact that there will be criticism. We put out guidelines, for instance, which we didn't really want to do, but we felt like we needed to. And boy, the criticism came in. And that's fine. People can complain and criticize, and then they can go their own direction, and more power to them. We want folks to succeed, especially risk takers. You know, I talked about my team earlier, and that team, talent-wise, was not the best team I've ever had. Matter of fact, the two teams that went the farthest when I coached them were not the teams. They weren't even close, I have to say, that were the most talented. Now, I'll take talent any day, but boy, if you don't have it, and many of us don't have talent. I don't have talent in all kinds of stuff. There are so many other attributes that you can put into play and put into action that can bring you success regardless. So, at any rate, I don't know. I'll ramble on forever about that, but I just wanted to say those things today. I don't know why. I just felt like that's where I didn't know what the video was going to be about today, and I started waking up and reading it, and it's all about the same thing. So we wish you all the greatest success out there, and you know, don't give up there's going to be ups and downs, y'all. There is for me. I've been doing this 25 years. There's ups and downs all the time. And there's different ways psychologically I try to deal with it. Sometimes it's, you know, if you have 2-3 bad days in a row, it's like, okay, let's look at the month, you know, are we doing whatever? But I'm not going to spend hours analyzing the data as opposed to doing something that's going to change the data. So, at any rate, y'all, thank you so much for dropping by and listening to me rant today. I appreciate you, and I can't wait to see you next time.